And welcome back to Game Escape. Today we're going to be looking at 3 arcade joysticks for modern classic consoles. We have on the top left the Hori Real Arcade Pro V3SA, top right the X-Arcade Dual Joystick, and here on the bottom we have the DreamArcades Dreamstick. Each of these fighting sticks can be had for around $100 on sale, and they each represent a pretty good option for playing a lot of the modern fighting games that have been released for this current console generation. But they also have some, I think, pretty significant drawbacks. So you can see that around the $100 price point, you can get a pretty good piece of hardware that will nonetheless have a few limitations, and I just want to bring those up to people if you are considering one of these 3 sticks. So we're going to begin with the DreamArcades Dreamstick for the Xbox 360. It's a kind of interesting joystick in that it's actually an Xbox 360 controller that's hardwired to all the micro switches and the joystick, and as such it works flawlessly with the Xbox. It has all the functionality that you would expect from a standard Xbox 360 controller. As far as connectivity, obviously you lose that second analog stick. A couple of things, highlights of this stick is the quality of its construction. It is heavy, it is solid, it really does feel like you are playing in the arcades. The joystick itself is very responsive, has a nice kind of clicking feel. You can sort of move it in all directions without any issues. The buttons are good, but they have a kind of spring to them. So when you press down, particularly if you're pressing them rapidly, there is perhaps a little bit more resistance than you would want. The battery life has been very, very good. In fact, I think even a little bit better than the standard Xbox 360 controller. I have it here with the black matte finish. It also is available with some different graphical finishes. Actually, I think the black matte finish is an upgrade. It doesn't necessarily clean very well. I've tried to clean some of the buttons with just a little bit of water, a little bit of rubbing alcohol, and it took off some of the paint. So definitely just use a microfiber cloth to clean it. The main drawback of this stick is there's kind of a dead zone as you're moving sort of left to right, 360-degree motion. As you push the stick to the extreme left or the extreme right, very responsive, but it's sort of in the middle where there's a bit of a dead zone. So during my review of the cave shooters for the Xbox 360, I experienced that a little bit, although it is, again, as I mentioned in that video, far superior than playing these games with the Xbox 360 controller or with the iPad touch controls. In fighting games as well, Virtua Fighter, those intermediate motions where you just want to, step back a little bit, it sometimes struggles with that. It also, on occasion, has gotten stuck, so if you press the joystick to the left, your character will shoot all the way to the left and will continue until you knock it out of place. I guess the micro switches get a little locked up. Not a huge drawback, though. It's pretty minor. I think this is one of the, if not best, ways to play fighters on the Xbox 360. You can still get these. If you go to the DreamArcades website, it will show up as sold out, but what I did was just contacted customer service, asked if they had any in stock, and they actually said that they did, and they set up a special purchase. I did that about a year and a half ago, and I wanted to order another one, the same deal. They said it was sold out on the website, contacted them, and I was able to place an order through a kind of special ordering process. So they are still out there. I'd highly recommend this if you're looking for a good stick for the Xbox 360. Again, It does have those few drawbacks, but they do not outweigh the overall quality that the stick brings to the table. And next up we have the Hori Real Arcade Pro version 3 SA. The stick is, I believe, now discontinued. I picked it up about a year ago on the Hori USA website. Kind of some few of the highlights of this stick. It claims to have real Sanwa buttons and the joystick. It also has a number of turbo settings, and it is a quality product all around. When you pick it up, it does kind of have a cheap plasticky feel as opposed to the other two sticks that we're looking at in this video, but it is incredibly responsive, and it has the Japanese square gate rather than the octagonal gate. I prefer the American style octagonal gate, but the stick is indeed very accurate. The drawback of this particular stick is the distance from the stick and the buttons. I find playing some fighting games, particularly if I'm using this on MAME in my computer room and I don't have a lot of space for my elbows, it becomes a bit tricky to pull off some of the quarter circle and half circle moves, moving to the right. I just don't feel that I have enough space on the stick. But it is the most responsive out of these three sticks as far as the buttons are concerned. Works with the PC, as I mentioned, with MAME, and it really is a great choice. At, I believe it was $129 when I picked it up. Perfectly happy with the purchase. Works exceedingly well. Absolutely no lag. Does run off of USB, not wireless like the DreamArcades Dreamstick, but it has a little compartment in the back where you can store the USB wire, which is long enough for, I would say, a moderately sized living room. And to me, it is my stick of choice for the PlayStation 3. They have updated this. They have the Real Arcade V3 SA Kai that has come out, which also features the Sanwa parts. And they have just released a new fighting stick by Hori, which just features their own parts, which they claim to be as good, if not better, than the Sanwa parts. That's retailing now for about $200, but if you can find these out in the wild for around $100, really good deal for both PC and PS3 gaming. And to round things out, we're going to look at the X-Arcade Dual Joystick from X Gaming. Obviously the highlight here is the fact that you can play both 1 and 2 players. Quality of the parts are pretty good. They're half knockoffs, but actually I kind of like the buttons on this one better than the buttons on the DreamArcade Dreamstick. The other highlight of this joystick is that it is compatible with tons and tons of systems. However, you do have to order the compatibility cables separately, and they are pretty pricey. I purchased this with the USB plus Wii, PS2, PS1, GameCube, and Dreamcast adapter. That cost me $25. If you want the PS3 and Xbox adapter, original Xbox, $30. If you want the 360, Wii, PS2, PS1, GameCube, and Dreamcast, it's $60. So these are incredibly expensive, and if you want all the compatibility cables, it is going to run you about $100, which is how much I paid for the stick on sale at this past Christmas. So it is not cheap to do, but if you have a lot of retro consoles and a lot of retro fighting games, this is really a great stick to have. I mean, getting this allowed me to revisit my PS2 fighting game library. I had a blast playing Street Fighter Alpha 2, Virtua Fighter 4, the PS2 Tekken game, some of the King of Fighters games that I had imported. So it really is a great stick if you enjoy PS2 or Dreamcast fighting games. I mean, Capcom versus SNK on the Dreamcast was absolutely awesome using this stick. It does have a pretty major drawback, and that is the Player One joystick. Has a dead zone when you go up right, so that sort of forward jump that you might do in Street Fighter doesn't always recognize that, which will cause you just to jump straight up and really compromises your gameplay, particularly in a two-player setting. It wasn't enough to make me want to return the stick. You can kind of get around it, doesn't always happen. Otherwise the sticks feel pretty good. The one issue was that they do get kind of squeaky. DreamArcades claims that this stick is really built for life. I'm not so sure that that claim is accurate, but it is really the only product on the market that allows you to play your fighting game archive from the PS2, the Dreamcast, moving on into the modern consoles, and do it with what I would consider to be an arcade quality product. So now comes the interesting question. If you have around $100 to spend on a joystick, all things being equal, which one would you choose? Now obviously if you have most of your fighting games on the Xbox 360, you're obviously not going to pick up the Hori Wrap V3 SA for the PS3, although there is an Xbox 360 version, which I assume is quite similar to the PS3 version. It's a hard question to answer because the $100 price point is pretty interesting when it comes to arcade fighting sticks. $100 will get you a pretty nice piece of equipment that is far better than any controller that you're going to use to play these games. But there are these compromises when it comes to joystick and button quality. Now, maybe in the comments below you can correct me if I'm mistaken about this, but I sort of remember as a kid going into the arcades and feeling like, boy, those joysticks were really super accurate. You know, playing Street Fighter on the original cabinet, I never noticed any kind of dead zone, or, you know, in the case of the DreamArcade stick, you know, when I hit up and right, you know, I jumped up and right across the screen. Now maybe this is just my memory playing tricks with me. I have been to some arcades recently that have opened up in my area, and these sticks are far better than the sticks on the cabinets in those particular arcades, but of course that hardware is 15, 20, 25 years old, so I don't think that's a fair comparison. I think overall, if I had to select one of these three sticks, I would go with the Hori product simply because it doesn't have any of the dead zone issues. The joystick doesn't get stuck in one particular position. I'm not crazy about the button layout. I prefer the standard American style joysticks and button layouts that you see on the DreamArcades Dreamstick and the DreamArcades Dual Stick, but for the price and the quality and the PC compatibility, I would go with the Hori RAP V3 SA. On the other hand, I really like having all three sticks, and the DreamArcades, despite the joystick issue, is really, really great for playing fighting games on my retro systems. So I hope this was helpful, and you actually can't go wrong, I think, with all three of these if you want to go out and put down the money for all three of them. But the Hori product, I think, is just a notch above the other two in terms of overall quality. Still, the idea that we can play these great next-generation fighting games with quality arcade hardware, obviously not as great as maybe you'd find in a Japanese arcade, but still significantly better than the joysticks that have previously come out to the home market. I think it is just an enjoyable experience, and really can't go wrong with the Hori product. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.